Budget eve cheer for the finance minister. GST revenues during January 2021 are the highest since the introduction of GST and has almost touched the 1.2 lakh crore mark, says the government. All eyes on the finance minister and the budget team. Will Nirmala Sitharaman's promised budget, like no other, be the starting point for picking up the pieces after the economic destruction caused by the COVID-19 pandemic? Journalist Mandeep Punia arrested at Singoon, sent to 14 days custody. His bail application to be heard on Monday. The Delhi Congress passes the resolution to make Rahul Gandhi party chief with immediate effect. A day after personally welcoming 5 former members of the Trinamool into the BJP, the Home Minister takes a snipe at the Bengal Chief Minister, says Mamata Banerjee will be left all alone to face the assembly elections. Hello and welcome. You're watching NDTV. The big story at this hour, there is some budget eve cheer for the finance minister. The government has announced that the GST revenue collection for January 2021 almost touches 1.20 lakh crores. This is the revenue from imports. This is because the revenues from imports are 16% higher than January 2020. The revenues from domestic transactions are 6% higher. And all eyes are now on the finance minister and her team, who are to present the budget 2021 tomorrow. And 2020, though, has taught us more than ever before that health is the biggest wealth. And so there are big expectations this year that there will be a quantum jump in the health sector allocations in the union budget, given, of course, that this is a pandemic year. But the question being asked is that if the union government is going to fund India's vaccination drive, what will be left? NDTV's Uma Sudhir reports.
India's ambitious COVID vaccine program is expected to not just keep the pandemic at bay, it is also expected to revive the economy. But the cost of vaccinating even half the population at 400 rupees per person adds up to 27,000 crore rupees. That is 40% of what India spent on its health allocation in the budget last year. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has to find the money for vaccines and much more in the union health budget, with the economic survey pointing out that a health crisis can turn into an economic and social crisis too.
Last year we had about 1.3% approximately allotted to healthcare. Now because of this COVID effect, I am sure whole of the population and even political circles have understood that we have to have more resources for the healthcare.
At least minimum 8 to 10% we should build. What we have 1.3% today should increase 8 to 10%.
Experts point out that health sector allocation should be seen as investment rather than expenditure, and government funds should prioritize primary and secondary health care, sanitation and improvement of social sector, since that would take care of 70% of healthcare requirements of the population.
If the budget is spent most on prevention of the diseases, like primary health care centers, this and that, that would be, it will reach will be much more than the tertiary care. And tertiary care mostly now also 70-80% is taken care by the private sector.
And this is the private health sector prescription to boost investment.
So if they can give a 5 years holiday for all the private health care in the beginning, and second important thing, the taxes, especially in the 5-6 years, either it may be income tax, whether it may be GST, whether it may be an import tax, more and more private healthcare people will come into the picture.
The economic survey points out that India has the highest out-of-pocket expenditure on healthcare. So innovation is needed to push for universal insurance, so healthcare expenditure won't become an unexpected emergency.
Let the private people, all the public should pay 25%, so that they will know what is the significance of this health. So once the insurance comes, the profitability and the generation of the private healthcare will also improve.
An area of opportunity for India is telemedicine and revival of medical tourism that was growing at 18% and took a hit last year. In Hyderabad with camera person Nagaraju, Uma Sudhir, NDTV.
And as we count down to the Union Budget 2021, the expectations on the common man from the country's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman is building up, especially among women in the workforce who have been particularly hit by the COVID-19 pandemic and its ensuing lockdown.
I have applied more than 500, 600 jobs in 3 days. Sitting there and just apply. I have tried hundreds and I have not received any single call.
I got your reference from Naukri.com.
Richa Tiwari, a 34-year-old HR trainer from Delhi with 15 years of work experience, was left jobless by the pandemic. 3 months into a new job at a multinational company in Bangalore, she was given the pink slip. She tried freelancing to support herself.
It used to be like I used to take 1 or 2 sessions in like 4 days or 3 days. I got into personal debts, got into financial debts from the bank. And finally, this year in Jan, I gave up. I was not able to stick around in Bangalore anymore.
Now back in Dwarka with her family, her job search has lasted a month and no luck so far.
We decide what is the best.
Himanshu Sharma, who has been running a job placement firm in Delhi for 3 years, has seen firsthand a dramatic drop in the number of jobs available for the millions who lost employment due to the lockdown in April.
We used to have, let's say, 150 vacancies in a month or 200 vacancies in a month. So after this lockdown, it immediately went down up to less than 10 vacancies.
Studies suggest that women workers have been the worst hit in the pandemic. 17 million women lost their jobs in April 2020. Women are 2 times more likely than men to lose employment during or after lockdown. Men are nearly 8 times more likely than women to regain employment post-lockdown. Many middle-class women exited the labor force entirely. Poorer women do not have this option. At this low-income neighborhood in Gurgaon, Sujata, a single mother who was earlier employed as a cook and a childminder at the local school, now supports her 2 children in her village in West Bengal by working in people's houses.
हाँ, एक घर में खाना बनाती हूँ, एक झाड़ू पोछा करती हूँ, वही थोड़ा मोड़ा मिलता है, उसी चल रहा है मेरा.
Sujata's neighbor, Bhano Bibi, was a cleaner in a call center, which shut down in the pandemic. Her husband only gets a few days of work each month. They have had to pull their 2 children out of school. And increasingly, people like Bhano are falling into debt to stay afloat.
मालिक ने लेते हैं मेरे साथ 18,000 रुपया, तो अभी इधर 6 महीने इधर से बंद कर दिया. उसका मालिक करिए इकट्ठा बाद में दे दियो, अभी तो पैसा है नहीं तो मैं अभी कहाँ से दूँ, इसलिए पैसा भी 6 महीने से दिया नहीं.
Optimistic talk of recovery in the job market does not yet apply to women, and it does not account for the vast inequalities exacerbated by the pandemic. The informal sector is still struggling, and there's been a mass exodus of women from the workforce, a challenge for the upcoming budget. With Sushil Rathi, Meher Pandey for NDTV.
And in other news, a Delhi court has sent freelance journalist Mandeep Punia, who was arrested on charges of causing assault, injury and obstruction to security forces at the Singhu border on Saturday evening, to 14 days judicial custody. His bail application will now be heard on Monday.
Arrested journalist Mandeep Punia raising free press slogans while being taken to Tihar jail in Delhi after being sent for 14 days to judicial custody by a magistrate. Mandeep Punia, a freelance journalist, was detained on Saturday evening from Singhu on the Delhi-Haryana border along with Dharmendra Singh while covering the farmers' agitation. While Dharmendra was released after giving a signed undertaking, Punia was arrested and kept at Samaipur Badli police station for the night. The police have filed an FIR against Punia under charges of obstructing public servant in discharge of public functions, voluntarily causing hurt to deter public servant from his duty, and assault or criminal force to deter public servant from discharge of his duty at the Singhu border. Meanwhile, Punia's wife alleges that this might be an attempt to silence journalists covering farmers' agitation.
मेरे पास एक वीडियो किसी ने मनदीप के किसी दोस्त ने भेजा. उस वीडियो में ऐसा कुछ था कि आरपीएफ और कुछ पुलिस की वर्दी में कुछ लोग थे, उसके हाथ में डंडे थे और वो लोग मनदीप को लेके जा रहे थे. अभी तक मुझे मनदीप से मिलने की कोई परमिशन मिली नहीं है.
The arrest of Punia also drew criticism from Congress leader Rahul Gandhi, who retweeted a tweet which said, "Those who fear the truth, arrest journalists." Journalists also staged a protest outside the police headquarters demanding Punia's release in the national capital. India currently ranks 142nd on the Free Press Index out of 180 countries. At a sensitive time like this, while it becomes the responsibility of the journalists to report the truth, it also becomes the responsibility of the government to protect the freedom of press. In New Delhi, with camera person Manu Nair, Amak Shedongre for NDTV.
And in his first radio address, Man Ki Baat, the first radio address of 2021, Prime Minister Modi referred to the events at the Red Fort during the Farmers' Tractor Rally on Republic Day as saddening and an insult to the tricolour.
इन सब के बीच दिल्ली में 26 जनवरी को तिरंगा का अपमान देख देश बहुत दुखी भी हुआ। हमें आने वाले समय को नई आशा और नवीनता से भरना है। हमने पिछले साल असाधारण संयम और साहस का परिचय दिया।
But on the ground, the stream of farmers heading for various protest points along Delhi's borders remained incessant on the 67th day of the massive protests against the 3 central farm laws. In fact, the numbers at the protest sites have only swelled over the past few days, particularly since the Republic Day violence in the national capital a few days ago.
The Mahapanchayat of Khaps underway in UP's Baghpat in support of farmers' protest and against them being sent back from protest sites in UP.
सारा सामान हमारा चोरी हो गया, 85 गद्दे हैं, 85 बिस्तरे हैं। रात में आके अचानक में बुजुर्ग लोग सोए हुए थे, लाठी डंडा एकदम अचानक ही बरसा दिया।
केवल कुछ आदमी नहीं थे, इतना आदमी है, वो आज ध्यान कर लें इस बात पे, जो संदेश दे रहे उन्हें।
Police have forced farmers in UP to end their strike on Thursday after they had camped for nearly 40 days on the Delhi-Yamunotri National Highway at Barot. Now they plan to support the farmers protesting in other states as well.
दिल लेके धरने को मजबूती दीजिए और वहाँ पर हमारी टीम भी है और वहाँ पर रोज टुकड़ियों में किसान भी वहाँ पर जा रहे हैं।
The Khap leaders have instructed all families to send one person each to support the protests in Delhi.
वहाँ पर गाजीपुर बॉर्डर पर खाद्यों की बहुत जरूरत है, भीड़ की जरूरत है, खाने पीने के सामान की जरूरत है, धन की जरूरत है। मेरा तो आप सभी से अनुरोध है कि गाजीपुर बॉर्डर की तन मन धन से योगदान किया जाए।
Farmers from UP villages are now going to Ghazipur on the UP-Delhi border, taking with them supplies of fresh vegetables and milk in tractors. The attempt is to keep the movement's spirit alive. With Parimal Kumar, Sanju Sharma and camera person Prem Singh in Baghpat, Revati Hariharan for NDTV.
And while opposition party leaders have come out in support of the protesting farmers, even boycotting the president's address on the first day of the budget session, Rakesh Tiket, who's at the center of the farmers' protest in Ghazipur, says the farmers' protest is apolitical.
हमारा विपक्ष से कोई मतलब नहीं और विपक्ष जो यहाँ पे आ रहे हैं वो यहाँ पे वोट तलाशने मत आए, न ये उनका आंदोलन है, न सरकार से बातचीत चल रही। विपक्ष आ रहा होगा, वो हमदर्दी में आता है, लेकिन यहाँ किसी की वोट की ना कोई बात करता, ना उसको मंच है और ना माइक है।
And the Congress's Delhi unit has passed an unanimous resolution asking Rahul Gandhi to return as president of the party with immediate effect. The resolution is expected to trigger off a series of similar declarations by state units of the party. It comes just days after it was announced that a new president would be elected in June after the assembly elections in several key states, including Bengal and Tamil Nadu. Let's go in for a short break. More news from around the country and the international news still to come, so don't go away. Welcome back. Let's get you some news from the northeast. First, former West Bengal Minister Rajab Banerjee, who recently quit the Trinamool, joined the BJP on Saturday along with 4 other Trinamool Congress leaders. After meeting with the Union Home Minister Amit Shah, he addressed a rally in Howrah where the Trinamool has suffered exits. And the Home Minister, who cancelled his 2-day visit to West Bengal due to developments in the national capital, addressed the rally virtually.
The BJP is pitching this as turning point in Howrah district. Union Home Minister Amit Shah, who addressed the rally virtually, said Mamata Banerjee won't have anyone by her side by the time the election arrives. This after a string of TMC leaders joining the BJP in the past few days.
चुनाव आते आते ममता जी अब पीछे मुड़कर देखना, आप अकेली खड़ी रह जाएगी, कोई और साथ देने वाला आपके साथ नहीं होगा.
Along with Amit Shah, Rajiv Banerjee targeted the most popular schemes of the TMC like Duare Sarkar and Shashto Shathi. The change of tune was complete as Rajiv Banerjee also accused the TMC of using minorities as a vote bank.
পাড়ায় পাড়ায় সমাধান, ভোটের মুখে পাড়ায় পাড়ায় সমাধান নিয়ে আসতে হচ্ছে, তার মানে কি এতদিন ধরে পাড়ায় পাড়ায় সমস্যা চলছে, তাই এখন পাড়ায় পাড়ায় সমাধান করতে হচ্ছে. যদি সরকারে আসে ভারতীয় জনতা পার্টি প্রথম দিন থেকে দুয়ারে দুয়ারে মানুষের কাছে পৌঁছাবে, পাড়ায় পাড়ায় সমাধান মানুষের কাছে গিয়ে করবে.
The Trinamool says Rajiv Banerjee was a second-rung leader who jumped ship over intra-party differences and his exit won't affect the party.
মানুষের দুয়ারে যাচ্ছে সরকার, এ তো কেউ ভাবেনি কোনোদিন. স্বাস্থ্য সাথীর মতন প্রকল্প এ তো কেউ কোনোদিন ভাবেনি. যেহেতু রাতের ঘুম উড়ে গেছে, সুতরাং লুটেরারা কিন্তু তাদের আয়নায় ওই নিজের ছবি দেখে, অন্যের ছবি দেখে না.
Howrah district with 16 seats is among the key districts in West Bengal's scheme of things, and the Trinamool has faced exits here. MLAs like Boishali Dalmia, who was expelled, and former mayor of Howrah, Rothin Chakraborty, have also joined the saffron fold. Another TMC MLA from neighbouring Hooghly district, Prabir Khoshal, has also joined the BJP. But the Trinamool Congress used this slip during the national anthem at the rally to once again target the BJP. The BJP leaders on stage got the last line of the national anthem wrong. Trinamool MP and Mamata Banerjee's nephew, Abhishek Banerjee, tweeted saying, "Those preaching about patriotism and nationalism can't even sing our national anthem correctly. This is the party which claims to uphold India's honour and pride. Shameful." To win in West Bengal, you need to win the big districts. Howrah adjoining Kolkata is one such district, and the BJP hopes that with desertions from the Trinamool, its tally in this district will improve, thereby also increasing its total tally. In Kolkata with camera person GD Shankar, Saurabh Gupta, NDTV.
And in Assam, the BJP grabbed the first mover advantage in the campaign for the assembly polls with back-to-back rallies last week by top leaders. But now the Congress has kick-started its campaign too, and as Ratnadeep Chaudhary reports, Assam could be heading for its most polarized election yet.
Last week was BJP's week in Assam, with massive rallies of Prime Minister Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah.
भारतीय जनता पार्टी असम मुल्क के लोगों को लेकर के काम कर रहा है. ये दोनों कुल मिलाकर के अगले दिन निश्चित रूप से बीजेपी प्लस इज इक्वल टू 100+ होगा.
Now Congress has hit the campaign trail with a massive minority cell convention at Lahori Ghat in Morigaon earlier this week, trying to consolidate Assam's close to 35% Muslim voters.
आसाम का एक जो संस्कृति है उसको बिगाड़ने की कोशिश करी है, उसको आसाम की जनता और देश की जनता कभी माफ नहीं करने वाली. अब क्या हो रहा है, जब जनता ने इनको जवाब दे दिया.
It is against the constitution to persecute or to polarize. So BJP will try that, but people of Assam are very reasonable. They know, they have senses, so they will definitely foil. They will definitely foil the attempt of the BJP to polarize.
Of the 126 assembly seats in the state, in about 40 seats, the Bengali-speaking Muslims are a factor. The BJP had branded them illegal migrants from Bangladesh, something that may come in the way of BJP's Mission 100+, its target to win more than 100 seats.
যদি বিজেপি এই সাম্প্রদায়িক মন্তব্যটো হিন্দু মুসলমান নকৰাহেঁতেন কিন্তু বিজেপিৰ ভৱিষ্যত ভাল আছিল, কিন্তু সাম্প্ৰদায়িক মন্তব্য কৰাৰ কাৰণে তেখেতসকলৰ যে মানে বিজেপি চৰকাৰ যে অধপতনে যাব,
যি দলে সকলো ধৰ্মৰ মানুহক একলগ কৰি পেলাই একলগ মিলি পেলাই একলগ হৈ পেলাই চৰকাৰ চলাব পাৰে, তেনেকুৱা দলকে আমি সাপোর্ট কৰো.
In the 2016 Assam polls, Congress and AIUDF fought against each other. The division of Muslim votes resulted in BJP win in as many as 27 seats. This time around, the Congress feels the Grand Alliance would ensure no division of votes. BJP would hope the opposite. With Sanjay Chakravarti in Lahori Ghat, in Guwahati, Ratnadeep Chaudhary for NDTV.